Welcome to the Local Marketing Podcast, brought to you by Thrive Fuel. Now, here's your host, Jason Holmes.
All right, so welcome everybody who is joining us for the second episode of the Local Marketing Podcast. As always, I've got Shannon Ellisor, Amanda Bowlby, and Adam Mahan here with me today. Let's get the important things out of the way first. Shannon, what are you drinking?
I am drinking a small batch mead. This is Resilience from Rohan Meadery. They're in Central Texas. This is actually a cherry mead aged on sherry oak. It's very, very tasty.
Is that very sweet?
It is, but it has a nice dry finish. You get the cherry and then you get the dryness of the sherry too. So it's a very dynamic mead.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks pretty dark. Amanda, how about you?
I just grabbed a beer. I'm gonna go with the Harpoon Dunkin' Midnight. It's like a dark coffee beer, I believe, and I'm going to drink it out of a mug because I'm weird like that.
Well, it's got Dunkin' Donuts coffee, so that's not bad.
I mean, yeah, not bad.
All right. Awesome. Adam. Oh,
Okay, so for those that remember last week, okay, had my nice UTSA koozie. This week, I'm going to be enjoying that with St. Arnold's All In on Hops Double Down Double IPA. And
Loved it. Those.
just because UTSA, Conference USA Champions 2021, I'm going to have make sure that we are repping
Okay.
for the Roadrunners.
How'd you find that in the child section?
Actually, okay. The first game, their first inaugural game, 2011. We went, it was their first victory at the Alamo Dome. We got to storm the field, came away with this awesome shirt. So I've had this thing since the beginning.
Okay.
Right. So luckily, Adam and I are not in the same room this time while there is mead and IPAs happening. And he can't show me kung fu moves, which may or may not have happened when we were both imbibing a bit much.
Okay.
Some other spirits may have been involved. Okay.
There was tequila involved.
Yeah, there was. And
You've said too much, Amanda.
Wow. Well, I was in the office yesterday and I meant to bring home several bottles and I just left them on the conference room table. I forgot them.
they're still there.
Okay, good. Those
Have you taken home the salsa?
No. I'll be there tomorrow. I'll grab the salsa. It's probably marinating nicely is my guess, right?
Oh, absolutely.
All right, great.
Potent.
Well, this isn't any small batch or anything, but it's a delicious botanist gin. Just a little tonic water with it. That's it. No lime, no nothing, but I love the botanist. And it's probably my favorite gin, that and Hendrix. So we're enjoying a gin today. All right. Well, so I just thought we'd jump right into it. And the big topic I put out there for today is, we're talking to all these local businesses that are selling physical goods, and a recurring theme is they don't have a lot of their best sellers on the floor. And the reason for that are these supply chain issues and not having inventory. And so talking to some of our customers, I think we've had some pretty imaginative customers in their own right, trying to think of new ways to at least engage with their customers when they don't necessarily have anything to deliver right now. So I think that's a big issue probably all around the country, where either if you're an auto dealer, you don't have enough inventory, which has really driven the used car market through the roof. So used cars cost almost as much as new cars right now. If you're a SUV type dealer or somebody like that, you're dealing with the same, or not SUV, but UTV.
ATV.
Yeah, if you're a furniture store, some of the big brands are telling their clients that, look, you need to get your orders in for like this time next year right now, because we don't know how long these supply issues are going to last. So what do you do if you're a local retailer and you don't have the kind of inventory that you're used to having, but you still need to keep your name out there?
Some of the stuff I've seen some local retailers doing, and this isn't necessarily going to work for everybody. This, if you carry a lot of indie and kind of handmade stuff, this is great. But when you're a small business or a regional size business, you can pivot more quickly. And the intelligent way to do that is to have conversations locally with your customer base, doing some roundtable discussions, talking about what are some products that interest you that you wish we carried, basically filling a gap in the marketplace. It may be you carried all of these things before, but let's face it, consumer habits have shifted and are going to continue to shift. And so there may be opportunities to carry some new lines or to provide some new services that you never considered before all of this disruption happened. So having those really, tight conversations with your customer base could help inform you on some new product lines or service lines that you could offer. That would be easier to ship, especially if you're sourcing them for more indie and kind of US based produced
Goods.
resources.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So piggybacking off of that, what Shannon just said, Jason, we just had a conversation not 2 hours ago, right, with one of our clients, art gallery. And one of the things that kind of came up was, hey, what are some other industries that a high-end art gallery could partner with that you wouldn't necessarily think of right off the bat that can open up some new avenues, right? So in their case, hey, what if we know that they have these interior design type conferences? How can we get into that space and position what we do to kind of like a supplementary market or supplementary industry, right? So that's one side or one way to think about it. But the other thing is, and I think this is really going to come to be a theme, a recurring theme as we go forward with a lot of these conversations, and that's adapting, right? Businesses have to adapt constantly. I mean, it's always changing. And I think there hadn't been a lot of change for decades. I mean, we look back, you watch movies, holiday films, it's Christmas time, right? So you think about Christmas movies from like the 1980s, 1970s, and you see images of like the Macy's and the Dillards and the J.C. Penney's. And that was a reality for a long time. That didn't really change, right?
Right. You
Not
didn't have
until the last 5 or so years and dubbed the retail apocalypse. But for so much of my life, so much I'm sure of y'all's lives, that was just the norm, the reality. And then because of shifting, not necessarily shifting tastes, but also shifting technologies, which has changed how we interact and how we buy and sell and transact business. Only those businesses that have been able to adapt are the ones that are surviving. And so, you apply that to something like supply chain issues that we're seeing now. And I don't want to be a doom and gloomer, but this really does show one small thing that seems innocuous could knock out our entire economic system. I mean, a pandemic, a virus that just in ways we never really imagined happened, right? And so, being able to adapt. So thinking about a furniture store, okay? Mm-hmm. So, we've got clients here that are dealing with that issue, that I don't have this set and I'm not going to have it for a year for whatever reasons, for whatever complex reasons that stretch back thousands of miles across the sea, right? So how do we adapt? Well, what are some things what are some ways, Shannon, you said it a minute ago, right? We look at new lines of services. Well, maybe a business that has been exclusively in the furniture sale realm starts looking at, hey, let's start incorporating moving that we've never done before. right? Maybe we can
Or-
offer moving services. Maybe we can offer repair services that hadn't really been offered before. So trying to find ways that you're either taking advantage of your current customer base, or like you said, Shannon, what are some needs that, and it really does mean having a conversation with customers. It means having a conversation with other business owners in your space, whether locally, regionally, whatever, and finding out, hey, I know we can't get these tables in, but here's some ideas about how you can continue to have a revenue stream, because that's really what it is. It's not about the products and services, it's about the revenue stream, right? So how can we continue to provide a new stream of revenue for that same kind of clientele? And so as we go forward, as businesses go forward, adapting is going to be the key word.
Right. Wow. I really like that. I like your moving example. That's something that, that's thinking way outside of the box, but you think about local furniture stores who have people who move furniture all day long. They don't have product to deliver, but they've been given these, in a lot of cases, they've secured these government loans or this government funding that's being targeted to keeping their employees on the payroll. And if you could actually kind of pivot your business and add a moving service when you can't deliver new furniture, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Now,
Or even, and I'll go a little bit further outside of the box, only because we had this conversation earlier, right? But what about some sort of interior designing or something of that sort? Maybe you get someone on staff that has a little bit of an artistic eye. We have people that work with us, that work for Thrive Fuel. They're not interior designers, but they have that eye, right? They're the ones we lean on, like, hey, we need some stuff for the office and we know who our go-to people are. Well, I'm pretty sure, if you're a small time furniture store, either you have someone in-house, you might have someone in your someone that, like, hey, maybe this is an avenue we can start looking at going. It's something that simple.
Yeah.
And I think Amanda had something to add there.
Yeah. Well, piggybacking on that, not just like services, that you could, as a small business, look at partnering, like you were talking about partnering with, for like a art store or an art gallery with interior design, but a furniture store could partner with a local craftsman who makes furniture themselves and might want to get a name in. The product would be more expensive because it's handmade and local, but those are very popular buzz things right now, handmade local products that you can put in your store that people are making that are exclusive. You could drive up the cost. People are going to buy those.
So I like that idea. And already there are two people here locally in Victoria that I know would be able to partner together. Someone that I know is making handcrafted products, and a furniture store that is needing a revenue stream, right? And, you talk about, okay, it might be more expensive, but let's question what value actually means, right? If I'm going to pay $300, $600 for a desk, but I'm not going to get it for a year, but I can pay $800 and I might get a desk in a matter of 2 months. Is it worth it to me to pay that extra $200 to have it quicker? But not only that, it's something I know is going to be handmade. It's not manufacturally mass produced, and it's a one of a kind. Like, this came from someone's actual craft. It came from their hands. You know what I mean? So I think that's a great idea. And that's not just furniture, but any kind of
Clothing,
small town, right? Clothing boutiques,
clothing design,
small time music stores. Yeah.
like bakers, anything like that. You can partner with local people to get, so they get their name out there and you get some product in your store, right. And they're like an exclusive, so you could even exclusive seller, all kinds of, there's so many things you can do to bring product that's not just getting product from across the sea, which is what the issue is when it comes to getting product. It's coming from boats that are getting stuck in a harbor and then not being able to be picked up by people and brought. So if you want product, you can get it locally made.
Exactly.
People like more anyway.
Well, yeah, the number one issue, the number one thing that's attractive about that is that it's available. If you can't get it, you don't know if you're going to get it for a year, which is literally the case right now. If you walk into someplace like an Ashley Furniture or Rooms to Go, in a lot of cases, they've always had a longer wait or supply chain issue than your truly local furniture stores, because a lot of their stuff, they're basically a showroom. You order it, it comes from China or it comes from somewhere else, across the sea, has to come on a boat. So, it might be your usual wait time might be 3 to 4 weeks, which that's already a downer, because you go into a store and you buy something for a few $1,000s and then you leave and you've got that buyer's remorse anyway, but you don't even have the stuff, but you've spent the money. That's a downer. So if you can buy it in a store and get it that same day, or then within the next couple days, or even a week, that's a huge advantage. Now we've got one example of local client of ours who, what he did, almost like he was clairvoyant, was he said, okay, I don't know how long this thing's going to last, so I'm just going to order as much as I possibly can from every supplier, max out those credit lines with those suppliers, because this is gonna, you could see it coming. You could see that there was going to be like an issue with getting stuff, and has inventory. And so you've got all of his competitors with no inventory, and he's pounding that message of buy it today, get it today. And that's the most important thing. Number one question somebody calls in with, it's not even how much is it, it's do you have it in stock, and when can I get it? And then the third question is, well, by the way, how much is it? And so it'll put you in a great position, but you have to, it's too late now, but it's pretty interesting that he's able to do that. So those are all great ideas. I mean, you've got to move toward things you can actually deliver. I thought what another customer did was they said, okay, we've been guaranteed inventory next year. We've been guaranteed inventory in the next few months. So they did things like reserve your new widget now.
Prepayment.
We'll put a payment down and we'll match your deposit, which may be the same price as, their normal, may cost them the same amount as their normal sale price, but at least they're putting a little spin on it. Customer goodwill, they're getting clients in the door to see what they do have in stock, and then also, ordering custom units. And that was a off-road dealer. So really important to think, you can't let it get you down, because everybody's facing the same thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
and I would contend too, at this point, as consumers, we're becoming accustomed to it. So as long as you're communicating to us customers the situation and what you're doing to try to mitigate it. I don't have this, but I have this.
Right.
Yeah.
Or different payment services like you're talking about, the prepayment offers. Transparency
and helping your clients understand what your struggle is. I mean, I think all of us have probably experienced going to a restaurant recently and not having the best service. Right. And the reason for that, I mean, people aren't coming to work as often. Those jobs aren't as attractive when you've got an option to not go to work. And so you need to think about that a little bit. I mean, we've had some, I can't stand bad service at a restaurant, but I'm thankful that people are at least showing up and coming to work. Here locally, we had a locally owned bar and grill where somebody just slammed the place on next door that I was there, waited this long for my drink, waited this long to be sat. Everybody was friendly, but still it was, this bad experience. Posted that on Nextdoor. The owner who lives here saw that and was able to explain, first of all, I'm sorry you had that experience. That's not our intention, which is don't get defensive when that happens. But he went on to explain, I usually have 5 prep cooks. I've got 2 because that's who's showing up for the job. I usually have X number of waiters and waitresses and servers. We can't get them. We can't hire those people right now. They're not showing up. Who I do have is showing up and they're willing to take care of you. And the outpouring from the community, the overall message was a positive one. That people understand that it's tough right now to get people to come to work for various reasons. So it's a struggle everybody's dealing with, which we're hiring as well. So, we've had that we've had those same issues of trying to find people who have the skills that we need. So as we grow. So, all right. Well, enough on that one. Shannon, you wanted to touch on Google Analytics.
Yeah, touch on Google Analytics a little bit. A lot of mom and pop, smaller businesses, I think they know Google Analytics is a place you go to see, okay, how much website traffic have I had and how long did they stay on my page? But there are some, you can really go deep into a rabbit hole in Google Analytics, but I thought I would keep, and we just kind of touch on the ones that I feel like are probably going to be the most important from a high level standpoint. I mean, we can talk conversions and how to set up UTM codes and goals and all that, but that's like for a whole nother podcast. But before I kind of touch on the ones that I feel like business owners, marketers that aren't as familiar with Google Analytics are going to want to know about, tell us a little bit, Jason, kind of the background on Google Analytics, because while yes, it's great because it's free, it's not the be all end all either.
Sure. Okay. So this is all from the top of my head from, I did not prep for this discussion. So this is knowledge over the last, I guess, 15, 20 years of what's gone on with analytics on websites in general. If you go back, I think 15 to 17 years, somewhere in there, to get any kind of data from your website, there were free products that were basically open source, shareware kind of products, things like Webalizer that would tell you how many quote unquote hits you had, how many pages were downloaded, how many IP addresses came to your website. There were paid services. One of those was a company called Urchin, and they were one of the bigger players in that space, and they gave you good data, but it's a paid service. I think for an average website, it would have been something around $100 to $300 a month back in the day, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe to the mid 2000s. And then Urchin was at some point acquired by Google. And, you know, Google being what they are, which is a data company, and really, you know, you think about what they do on the marketing side, and well, and when the tools that they make available to marketers, they took Urchin and they turned it into Google Analytics, rebranded it, and really didn't change it very much initially, but made it free. So after they purchased Urchin becomes free. You can install it on all of your websites, and that's where that's where we started to get some intelligence into the industry overall, especially in local, where back then when that happened, you'd have been you'd really hear that term hits a lot. How many hits did your website get? Which really meant nothing. Hits were, the number of files being downloaded or the number of files being accessed on a website. So if you had a website that had hundreds of items on it on the homepage, like scripts and images and HTML pages, every one of those individual items would be considered a quote unquote hit. Well, Google Analytics kind of turned everybody on to the term unique visitor, which is as close as you can get to a person as possible, a unique visitor to the website. Of course, people can be counted more than once. If you visit from home and you visit from work, you're two unique visitors, those types of things. But they really modernized what we look at as far as analytics to a website. And it's far more accurate, and has been since then, than any other measurement tool for media. If you think about it, Nielsen ratings up until very, very recent, until set-top boxes became popular on television stations, Nielsen ratings were based on a few hundred people in a market writing down what they watched in a diary. And that's how, billions of dollars in advertising was directed, was based on these in each market, what everybody wrote down that they watched. So we've never had a perfect system for measuring, but Google Analytics is pretty dang good for local websites or any type of website. So that's kind of the long short version of what happened with Google and analytics. It keeps getting better. What it doesn't do, this may have been what you're looking for, is Google owns the ad serving tools in a lot of cases, and it owns the analytical tools, and they've never matched up, and they never seem like they will match up. Like, you can track your Google AdWords campaigns within or your Google Ads campaigns within the ad tool, and you can also track those same campaigns within the analytics dashboard, and they still don't match up. They don't make total sense. It's more of like directional information that you can get then. Oh, this is exactly the number of people. This is exactly what is performing properly. So
yeah, basically, if your data set is large enough, over time you can see trends. That's kind of what you use for is for trends. So what are some things that if I were a small business owner, maybe I owned a couple locations, in the middle of the country, that I would want to be keeping an eye on for trends, and how could I use analytics beyond just, page views? So you can learn about your audience. Okay. When you pull up your analytics, there is a rail on the left-hand side, and the options are real-time, audience, acquisition, and behavior, and then conversion. So you just click audience, and in there you can see where the people live that have accessed your site, or where were they physically located if they were on mobile when they accessed your site. Demographics as far as their age and gender. What products or services might they be in the market to purchase based on different affinity categories and behavioral categories? Because like Jason just said, Google is a data company. And when you're searching and you're doing things, that information is being stored. And when somebody was on a website before, and now they've come to your website and they used Google to do all of that, now we can see what their interests are. Are they into fast food? Are they into health and fitness? Are they into photography? Are they currently searching for possibly furniture or buying a new home? What devices are they viewing from? Which pages on your site they viewed, and how long they stayed on the site. So what are some ways you might use this information? So it could help you kind of create an avatar about who's coming to your site. And then you would use this information to kind of possibly help determine what kind of sales you might want to be initiating, what kind of offers you want to do, what types of advertising creatives might resonate with that audience. If your avatar shows that you have a really young audience that's into tech, and your advertising messaging is really something that somebody over 40 would like, or would resonate with them. So this really helps to inform you there. Also, if you're looking at redesigning or refreshing your website, all of that information in there can help you determine or create a better user experience on the new website, because you can look on that behavior tab. You can see what are the most popular pages. You can even look at user flow and see if somebody started on this page, how did they flow through the other pages on the website? This can help you say, okay, well, I'm going to redesign this new site. This is the content that's really important to my customers. Make sure that navigation is clean for them, so that it's a great user experience. On the flip side of that, there may be some information on your site that you feel is important for customers to see, but maybe it's buried so deep they can't find it. And so that's going to help you to determine, where to place that in a way that it's found more easily. Also, it's going to help. There's some tools in there under acquisition that's going to help you see how are people getting to your site. Was it organically? That's going to be some of the marketing you may do for that is going to be your search engine optimization and your Google profile optimization. Direct, that really intimates brand recall. Are they directly putting in your URL? Okay, that means they remembered who you were and they're going directly to your site that way. And then also referrals. So that's going to be things like Facebook, YouTube ads, pre-roll and streaming TV, your Google ads, things like that. That can kind of help you see where your marketing efforts are connecting with traffic to your site. Something else I recommend too is checking your traffic comparisons quarter over quarter. So kind of your historical traffic trends. You can see, okay, well, my traffic for fourth quarter of this year has been this.
Right.
Fourth quarter last year was higher. And then you can dig into those analytics and see, okay, well, which referrals are down? Maybe you quit doing SEO. You were doing it, last year, but this year you're not. And so now your organic traffic is down. So that can help you see how your marketing efforts are impacting your historical trends too. So,
well, what's interesting about that is if you think about it, most websites you look at, whether it's a retailer website or really almost any website other than probably gaming, on weekends, your traffic is down. Your traffic is, on a media website, it may be down 50%. When I say media website, like TV, newspaper, radio, something like that, because people are out, they're busy, they're out there doing things, right? They're living life. They're not just on their devices all the time, as much as they are on their devices. But what happened last year with the pandemic is every day was, locked in your house. So internet traffic overall was way up, and all of the internet giants gained from that. Your Amazons, eBays, Google, even Apple. So they all had more traffic because people couldn't go anywhere and do the things they were used to doing. This year you might be up, you might be down just because of that phenomenon that people are getting out there more. It's not quite normal, but they're out there more than they were last year, and they're not spending as much time online. Overall in society, that's probably a really good thing. But one of the tips that I give local advertisers, and these are your medium size and larger advertisers that are doing things like buying television advertising, is if you know your ad schedule, which you should have your ad schedule. You should know when your ads are being placed. You should be working with, you should be taking a look at your Google Analytics. And if you don't know how to read your Google Analytics properly, talk to your agency that's who you're working with and audit what is happening with your analytics versus that television schedule. Because if you're spending tens of thousands of dollars on advertising on television at night or during the day, you should be able to tie an increase in your web traffic to your Google Analytics. Okay, you should see that if you have a spot running at 6 o'clock during the 6 o'clock news and you're paying $2,000 to $3,000 for that spot, then your organic or direct traffic should actually go up from that spot. And if that's not happening, there's a problem, because all marketing, external, outdoor, everything that you do should drive traffic to your web presence, because that's the first thing people do now. Even if they're going to call you, okay, if they're going to call you, your leads from your Google My Business or Google Business profile should increase based on that advertising you're doing. If they're not, then you're not reaching the right people, and that's something where
and that can also mean that your ad creative is missing the mark. You may not have a clear call to action. It may be just if it's general branding, I may or may not need to go to your site right now, but if I have a clear call to action or something that's of scarcity, I need to look now. You should definitely see spikes in your Google Analytics and your Google Business profile.
Right.
So I got a couple of things here. The first is, and we didn't touch on this before we started today, but I think going forward, we should have just an ongoing thing with us. Whoever's notifications goes off buys the next round.
How?
That was me.
We'll make it happen.
That was me.
Oh, okay.
So you can go to the go to the office.
Deliver a beer to their house.
There it is.
Yeah.
So, Jason, you talked about clients that already have their analytics set up and they're running campaigns, and it's cross-referencing the two. And I kind of want to speak to those that don't. right? Those that have never really cared, because we see that, right? We have prospects, or we have people that call us asking about, hey, I'm interested in doing some advertising. And we kind of go do, just some real basic prelim research on this or that company. And we're like, these guys don't have Google analytics tracking
Or
on their website
any kind of
or
analytics
anything,
at all.
right?
So
And so there's still such a high percentage of businesses from small to large that just don't think of these things.
No,
And
it's amazing. It's amazing. You'll go to some decent sized websites and, you take a look at the tracking code that they have on their site, and they don't even have analytics set up.
Exactly. So speaking of that, and I think one thing is really important, and that's, I think you kind of hinted at it, Shannon, but I think there's a bigger point to be made here, and that the first step should be auditing your website for content, right? So too often businesses will skimp on their website. They're either going to skimp on cost, they're going to skimp on, not really fully delving into and explaining what it is that they do. So I'm going to pick on myself, right? Kung Fu school that I go to. And initially that website was a one pager. It just had some text on there. And if from a standpoint of, I want as much content as possible, so if people are searching, they're going to get the most well-rounded, comprehensive idea of what is offered at our school, right? So I'm having pages for every little thing, right? So I think it's important, whether you are a Kung Fu school, whether you're a furniture store, whatever it is that you are, right? You need to make sure that every single thing that you do, we talked about adapting, right? So if you're a furniture store and now you're doing moving services, well, that better be on your website. Before you even start advertising that, you better have a page set up, right?
You better know how to price for that too.
Price, page, everything.
And you better call your insurance company and make sure that you're insured to do that. I mean, you probably are. You're moving new furniture.
Yeah, I can't.
Yeah. Sure.
And then make sure that you have that new content SEO'd so that it begins to rank. So when people are searching for those services, they find you, and put it in your Google business profile as well.
So that's important. So having these pages built out, and the reason being is that once you do start to advertise, or you do start to track your analytics, now that you have more pages, you have more options to be able to truly narrow down what your traffic is doing. If you only have 5 pages, it's hard to really see, okay, people are interested specifically in termite removal. If I'm a pest control company, if I only have a page that says pest removal, okay, I might see a bunch of traffic there, but one person's pest is another person's non-issue, right? So if I have termites, mosquitoes, if I have everything pages drilled down, me going back and checking my analytics, I can really see, okay, during the months of April to May, because I'm looking at my analytics from last year, I noticed that these service pages are getting higher traffic, right? This is data I can now start using. And you can only do that if your website's fully optimized, in the sense that you have the content built out for what it is that you actually do, which is segueing into my next point here. And that's, and again, you pointed to this, Shannon, earlier about year-over-year trends, right? And yes, seeing, okay, traffic was up and down in an overall sense, but I do think it's also important to see the more granulated trends that are happening month over month, season over season, year over year. So, hey, between May to August, these particular services or these particular pages are resonating more with males 25 to 35. But for some reason in the spring, it kind of flips. And now 55 on up females tend to be the higher demographic visiting, right? Why is that, right? And you begin to use that in your marketing efforts. So when you do go to do a social media campaign, if you are getting video produced that you're running over OTT, you're running email campaigns, whatever it is that you're doing, this is data you can start using as a tool in in your marketing efforts, not so much cross-referencing after the fact, but using it to guide what it is that you're doing.
Exactly. Amanda, you had something.
Well, also keep in mind, if you want to run Google ads, you need to have the content on your website very like detailed and specific, because they rank for that.
Yeah.
So that like the content on your website is important not only for the user experience, but the end advertising result. And if you want your ads to be successful, if you have a page for termites and all it says is we handle termites, then that's not helpful. You want your website to be comprehensive, not overloaded, but comprehensive, so that anyone coming to your website can get the information they need to call you. And then you want to make sure you're talking about contact me's and all that on each page too, just so they're like, oh, I want termites, I'm going to call you immediately, or I'm going to send you a contact form.
Well, question for you, Amanda, is Google okay with violence toward termites?
I don't know.
Hope so.
I hope so.
I mean, you've done those campaigns. I mean,
they haven't gotten mad about
haven't gotten mad about them.
They seem to not care about termites.
Okay. All right. Well, the interesting thing, what you're really saying, Adam, is that, well, you're hearkening back to the fact that Google has destroyed the homepage. The homepage doesn't really matter anymore.
Absolutely.
So, you think about every page of your website, and there are search terms that your internal pages you think that maybe people don't go to, those are really going to be the entry points that your customers end up on. If I'm looking for a Tempur-Pedic mattress in South Texas or in Victoria, Texas, or anywhere else in the country, I'm going to probably end up on a local furniture store website that has to do with Tempur-Pedic mattresses or mattresses in general. And so I'm not even going to enter through the homepage. I need to get to a page that tells me a few things. Do you have it in stock? When can I get it delivered? And can I get it today? Like, that's the most important stuff. And so
don't direct your advertising directly to your homepage if the ad is about Tempur-Pedic mattresses, because nobody wants to search your website.
Right. No, because search on a website, it sucks, right?
Nobody
a local websites, terrible.
Because nobody wants to take the time, consider the fact that everyone's attention span is 5 seconds. So if they click to your website, don't see anything about Tempur-Pedic mattresses right away, all they have to do is back out and find another page that goes directly to what they want. So people don't have to take the time anymore.
Once again, that goes back to user experience, not just in the way you developed your website, but also thinking through your digital marketing. Where are you gonna take people, and what action do you want them to take once they get there?
Right.
Conversions and picking goals. Goals plus buying process. Yeah.
Right. All right. Wow. We better move on. This is gonna be a longer episode. Holiday marketing.
Yes.
Amanda, what did you want to say about that?
I mean, it's December. It's a little late to really put a full-scale marketing strategy together, but I figured this is the time that people are thinking about it. It's the time for people to have that discussion. We need to touch on it. It's important. And there's last-minute things that you can do if you haven't done anything yet, which bad, but there's last-minute things you can do on social media and stuff to make sure you're at least hitting on holiday marketing and hitting on the season, getting things like that.
What would you do? I mean, if you haven't done anything yet, what are some of the examples of last minute things you can do?
It's too late for big campaigns, but you can do a Facebook campaign for something quick. If you're trying to sell bakery items, if you want to push your cake sales, or whatever, and don't have any orders, and are like, I need orders for my pies, then you can do a small Facebook campaign for a local business. That's why you need to make sure your Facebook presence is in order, and make sure you're posting your hours and consistently posting about holiday stuff. That's where you can do last minute holiday marketing. But holiday marketing ideally should start in the summer.
Yeah, absolutely. So they should have been thinking about this in August and September and getting the plan together, right, for Q4 overall.
Or think of this. Okay, so we've got a client here that we're dealing with this right now. Amanda, you're familiar, or you might not. Anyway, you think about what were you doing for Black Friday, Cyber Monday? Let's say you were running an ad or you're running a special for bracelets. Okay, and the sales just didn't really come through like you were hoping they were going to. That we talk about a quick turnaround, something I can already kind of green light and turn on. Well, why not extending what you were doing during that time for your holiday season, right? So we've got a client published a book, and the Black Friday Cyber Monday sale, just wasn't as stellar as they were hoping. Well, hey, we can quickly convert this into a holiday campaign. We've already got the deal made. We've already got the landing pages created. It takes no time at all to get some social creatives created, and boom, we're off and running. You've now got a campaign that's going to be running from now to the end of the year, right? So when you think about kind of real quick, I ain't got time to put a real big thing together. What can you recycle? Maybe what are some things you did earlier in the year that were popular and did hit? And hey, let's ride that train a little longer. Or, we had this campaign, it didn't run as well during the summer or back to school or whatever. Back to school, perfect right there, right? So what about clothing stores, shoe stores that were doing things for back to school? Well, how can we recycle some of that? Because guess what? Kids go back to school in January. So things like that, you can bring back, repurpose, and
yeah, well, you
ways
can,
to think about it. Yeah.
I mean, it depends on what your business is, but you can repurpose a lot of stuff for each holiday. Valentine's Day, same thing. I mean, because Valentine's Day comes up. I mean, there's holidays all throughout the year that businesses should be touching on at least. I mean, it depends on your industry, but for the most part, like the bigger holidays, you can plan an entire year. You just need to make sure you plan it somewhat in advance, but you can pivot. You can pivot more with social media than you can with other, like.
I would also say with email marketing, assuming you have a robust email list, flash sales. I mean, with a coupon code, in the email, 24 hours only. I mean, Bath and Body Works during the Christmas time does this beautifully every single day. They have conditioned me during the holidays to check my personal email to see what the new flash sale is going to be. And I can purchase it online and pick it up in store, or they can send it to me. There is no reason why local businesses cannot do the same.
Flash sales. But I mean, even with flash sales, you still have to have kind of
well, you have to have the inventory.
The inventory,
you do the flash sale based on the inventory you have on hand, and you mark, do the markdown in a way that your margins are still good, but it's going to move the product as well.
Yeah, but
or maybe your margins aren't great, but you're getting rid of what you have to get rid of at the end of the year. I mean, that's what some folks have to do. And
I mean, flash inventory, yes.
And the big thing is you've got to manage your expectations. I mean, you are not Amazon, you are not Bath and Body Works, you are not Walmart. You are going to move. You can't really have the expectations there's going to be a blowout sale. We hope it is. A lot of times, you do really well on discounted offers as long as they're well thought out. But the folks that you're competing with have thought, they didn't do this last minute. The Bath and Body Works agency had this thought out a long time ago. So you've seen it. By the time you see the promotion that you like, it's too late. Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of times. If you can do something last minute, great. If not, file that away. Think about it for next quarter or next year. Think about ways you can modify it and get creative so that you can compete and find a partner that can help you execute it if you need one. So
yeah, planning is ideal. Well, yeah, you can do a lot of things last minute and you can pivot with things like Black Friday. You can take Black Friday, but typically that's planned like, all right, we'll do Black Friday and then we'll switch it to holiday. That's what most companies do anyway. I mean, they recycle the same sale.
Every single sale ends up getting extended, right? Just for you. You asked for it. We heard you. You spoke. We listened. I mean, it's done again and again. You get jaded when you're in marketing, And then you're surprised. Sometimes I'm surprised where I'm like, I see that deal and I'm like, oh, it's going to get sweeter. It's going to get better. I'm not going to buy right now. And then it's gone. Every once in a while that does happen. So, okay. Yeah. I mean, holiday marketing, let's make a note, make sure we cover this in August next year, in the, one of the August editions of the podcast. So we'll make sure we do that. And we have a complete fourth quarter guide for everyone, that is listening to the show. Adam, NFTs, how many do you own?
0. A hard 0. So this, we're gonna harken back a little bit. I won't say harken back, but
It's the most harkening I've done.
This is kind of the next step, the next iteration of last week's conversation to an extent, right? So, we talk about adapting and moving with technology. And as we progress forward, move forward, technologically evolve, so many more things that we're going to be talking about in this space. And, last week was the metaverse, and we spent quite a bit of time on that. And now we're going to look into the world of NFTs. For that, I'm opening up this one. Go Roadrunners. Okay. So NFTs, what does this even mean? The non-fungible token. What does that
mean?
Exactly.
What does that mean?
So, I don't have I should have written the actual what fungible actually means. And one of the articles I came across, it'll be in the show notes. It'll be in the show notes.
So fungible means it's a 1-to-1
right
equation.
And one of the things that came up in the description of fungible was, for those that actually created this, they really dug deep to find the most apt word they could to describe what it is that we're doing with an NFT in the word fungible. Okay. So for quite a while, ever since the advent of digital tech and digital assets, right? We think about digital art, we think about GIFs and memes and digital video, digital music, proving authenticity was extremely problematic. Okay. How can you actually prove that, Shannon, this thing you made in Photoshop or Adobe, whatever, how can I prove that that's really yours? Right? You might be able to provide me the original file, and it might have some timestamps, and it might have some IP address stamps, but those can be forged. If you really know someone that knows what they're doing, they can easily manipulate that timestamp on that file, right? And so, we think about, hold on, one of my lights just went out.
Let's see that.
Yeah, we're having technical difficulties. My camera went down, so didn't charge the battery long enough, I guess.
Yeah, I can talk and do things. So looking at authenticity, and this was a huge problem for any kind of buying and selling of a digital asset, right? And that's where this NFT, this non-fungible token idea, came into the forefront. It's basically and essentially, in a nutshell, it's a certificate of authenticity is what it is, but it's a digital certificate. It's a digital token of authenticity. It exists in the same space and upon the same technologies that cryptocurrencies exist in. So for anyone that's familiar with what cryptocurrencies is and what Bitcoin is, I doubt anyone listening to us right now that has not heard of crypto. Okay. So even if you have the most bare bones understanding of what cryptocurrencies are, it's pretty tech. It's very secure. It's this new kind of frontier in the digital world. And it's there where NFTs are living as well. Okay. So basically how it works, both NFTs and cryptocurrencies exist in a space known as blockchains. And what a blockchain is once you have, let's say, a file, and this file undergoes a process of being changed, edited, moved around. Think about Google Drive. So for anyone that works within Google Drive, you might have a Google Doc, okay? Shannon creates a Google Doc, and maybe that doc is Google Analytics. Her speech today on Google Analytics was created in a Google Doc. Jason goes in, he reads it, he makes some editing, right? Amanda goes in, she does some editing on that doc. There's actually a time-stamped progression, a timeline of editing that you can actually go back, see what all was done, but still see that Shannon was the one who initiated this document, right? A blockchain is similar, but it's built within a very cryptographic system, which we're not going to get into. This isn't our space, and there's plenty of resource material that we're going to be linking in the show notes for those that do want to go a little bit deeper in this. But basically, what a blockchain does is, you have your created file, and then every single thing that has happened since is timestamped and dated, timestamped and dated, timestamped and dated, to where by the time it becomes something that is in the marketplace, in the crypto marketplace, you have a blockchain that's probably however many gigs or whatever of data that anyone can look at. It's all transparent. Going back to that initial, its initial source and its origin, right? And the thing about it is, because the blockchain kind of exists in this, you think about a family tree, right? So if we think about a family tree and you were to go back 18 generations and you tried to fudge data on your 18th great grandfather, well, you've just ruined your family tree, because now every single person that has come afterwards will now be infected, so to speak, or you can see that in the train ride down.
Yeah.
Okay. So because of that, the blockchains are in a sense inherently tamper-proof, because it will disrupt everything that comes after it. So it's built to be inherently secure, right? And then all of this is existing in a very cryptographic space that I don't even understand. I don't think any one of us could even begin to understand in terms of what goes into cryptography, right? But anyway, the idea is this blockchain process, which this process is what cryptocurrencies live in, and this is how cryptocurrencies exist. NFTs also exist in the same space, right? So not only is it a certificate of authenticity, but it's one that's very transparent and one that is designed in its nature to not be tampered with. Therefore, any buyer seller of this, token can be guaranteed of its authenticity, right? So let's pretend we have a digital piece of art and we have a user and his name is Van Gogh Guy 1, okay? And he creates a piece and he encodes it with an NFT and he goes to sell it, okay? Any buyer can verify that this is actually Van Gogh Guy 1's piece because it has his NFT attached to it, okay? We're gonna call this piece starrynight.gif, okay? Now let's say someone comes along and their username is I am the real Van Gogh Guy 1. And they're trying to sell on the market a reproduction. Let's say they took the GIF, saved it. Or let's say it's a picture and they just took a screenshot, saved it. Well, guess what? The NFT does not exist in that reproduction. It does not exist in any screenshot. So someone going to buy this starrynight.gif looking for this NFT isn't going to find it. It shuts down any kind of attempt at forgery, tampered files, meaning you have an authentic Van Gogh guy one piece. Okay. A nice real world example. I mean, the Michael Jordan autograph on a basketball. Now, this isn't my example. This is in one of the articles that I'm referencing. So this credit goes to somebody else. But you go to buy a basketball, and we know Michael Jordan signed this, right? For whatever we have the video, whatever, that Michael Jordan signed this basketball. Let's say Amanda goes and gets the basketball, and she's learned Michael Jordan's autograph, right? But if we have no way to actually trace that, what Amanda's trying to peddle back to Michael Jordan, what worth is it? It's not going to be worth the original autographed Michael Jordan basketball, right? Now, a lot of times with these tangible assets, they come with a physical certificate, something that's framed, whatever, and it gets passed along with that article. Well, this is the same thing, but in a digital space.
Right.
Rather than a piece of paper that says this is your certificate, well, this is now a digital token that is in its design tamper-proof. Can't go in there and edit the source file, because to do so would be to destroy the rest of the blockchain. It's a pretty neat little system here. Okay, so I went into a little bit what a blockchain is, and it's important to understand kind of how that works to really understand why an NFT is important in this space, right? But the thing to take away here is that a blockchain for both cryptocurrencies, NFTs, and something I'll kind of hint to a little bit later is that it provides a degree of transparency. This is authentic. This is in no way a forgery, right? And one of the unique things about blockchain technology, cryptocurrencies, NFTs, dApps, which we're going to get into, dApps actually, not dApps, dApps, is that
So it's not that.
actually takes away the need. Please don't ever do that again.
Yeah, please don't.
Especially not under Don Draper, Shannon. Is that it actually takes away the need of some sort of central authority. It
Yes.
takes away a regulatory administration, because the process itself self-regulates.
Yeah.
Right. And so you take away this possibility of this, I don't want to say threat so much, of tampering, of manipulation, of biasy, because it's the process itself is the administration, right? Is the regulation. And so any one of you that goes out and starts researching NFTs or cryptocurrencies or dApps, one of the things you're going to see a lot is this term decentralization, decentralized. Cryptocurrencies are decentralized. They don't need a regulatory body to regulate them, the same way a dollar or the euro needs a regulatory body, some bureaucratic body to facilitate the value, right? The process replaces humans in a sense. Now we're dealing with AI, right? So one of the ones I'm going to pick on, now there are numerous blockchain technologies and software platforms, but the one we're going to talk about and I'll reference the most is Ethereum, because it's upon Ethereum that the NFTs have thrived. Now, Ethereum is not the only one that facilitates NFT transactions, but it was one of the first, and it is one of the more prominent, right? So again, this isn't the only one. I'm just using Ethereum as an example as we go forward. So the concept of a non-fungible token actually stems back to about 2011, 2012. And what they were trying to do was to create a coin, and they called them colored coins. And they wanted something that was digitally encrypted, something that was backed up by a blockchain type technology that represented ownership of a real world asset. Okay, so we think about art, and it primarily in arts and collectibles, but it even extended to things like real estate ownership. It extended to things like collectible cars. precious metals, right? So a great way to conceptualize what a colored coin was trying to do was no different than, a little more than a century ago. Let's say you bought some silver or some gold and you went to deposit it in a bank. Well, you received a banknote certifying that, I deposited X amount of value of gold or silver, and this note can be used to exchange to get that silver or gold back, right? So the note was kind of the 19th century version of an NFT, so to speak, right? Or rather, an NFT is a 21st century version of a banknote, an 1800s banknote, okay?
Right.
So, and the idea again is I wanted this coin, which was my certificate of authenticity, to facilitate at the very least proof that I owned something in the real world. Again, land, collectible cars, if we wanted collectible baseball cards, but it was mostly things like precious metals, collectible art, all these things. Because again, I'd much rather have something that's encrypted, that can't be forged, versus a piece of paper. Now, obviously paper can be forged, but it's difficult, but it's done. Side little tangent here. I mean, there are 2 Netflix documentaries. I can't think of the titles, but I can remember watching them about forgeries in the wine market, forgeries in the art world, right? So physical items are not easy to forge, but can be forged. But if you have something digitally that is an encryption level, that the process to even encrypt it and decrypt it, is a subject of controversy because of how much energy it uses. Okay. I like to play video games on my PC. I know I'm going on a side tangent here, but when I want to buy a video card, the video card that I purchased for my PC was a GTX 1070 7 years ago. And that card cost me $250. It's a good card. That card, the last I checked, was over $1,000. 6 years later. You know why? Because that specific model card was so efficient at creating and solving blockchain puzzles. And that's what the thing, blockchains exist in puzzles. You actually have to decrypt the blockchain to see it. Okay. And you need powerful computing processes to do it. One blockchain process, just to decrypt one transaction, uses as much energy as a city block in 5 days. So it takes a lot.
Yeah, and those
just
cards,
to facilitate a market transaction.
Those cards were really good at. I mean, I remember another colleague had a couple of those, and he ended up eBaying them because they were so good at encryption. And of course, in the gaming space that I'm in, it really sucks because I'd love to upgrade my graphics card. There's the new 3000 generation, right, that I'd love to get my hands on. They are so expensive, not because of their gaming potential, but because of what they mean in the blockchain process, right? So the point being is, even to facilitate one transaction, so much energy goes into it that even attempting to crack this is, at least at the present time, borderline impossible, right? So when you're thinking about something that I can be assured is authentic, this is the way to go. And so that's what the concept of the colored coins were, right? Now, the first NFT to be created, and again, even though we wanted colored coins to facilitate the transaction of real world assets, I mentioned at the very beginning was the problem with digital art. So again, Amanda goes and creates a character in Adobe Illustrator and wants to sell it. 15 years ago, that issue would be anyone that can hack and can hack a file can easily manipulate that file
to say that they were the rightful originator of that file, right? And so there was this need for some sort of secure way of saying this is mine and nobody else's. Okay, so 2014 came the first piece of art to be sold as an NFT, and it was known as Quantum. And we'll post it in the show notes of what this is, but essentially it was just an octagon. It was a colorful octagon that had shapes, colorful shapes coming out of its center. And it was the first one to be sold. Today, that thing is worth $7 million. Okay. Now, especially with digital artists, you know, any kind of art, even if it's painting, you know, being able to get paid for your art, whether it's music, whether it's something illustrative, you know, there's always that worry and fear that I'm going to create something, someone else is going to say they did it first and then rob me of my royalties, right? And then attempting to prove that it was really me in the first place becomes more hassle than it was worth to probably even create the art in the first place. So NFTs have become this way of digital artists to put their stamp on a piece of art. It's even now getting into the music space, right? I can encrypt my song or sample or whatever with an NFT that it's mine. And so that was 2014. You know, in the subsequent years, it was growth in its popularity, but really was amongst the crypto space. Like, you had to be in the crypto world and amongst it and kind of living in it to know what an NFT was, right? And it wasn't until really this year, you know, 2020 to 2021, that NFTs have really blown up in the mainstream space. And again, it's mostly in the realm of digital art. So we think not just static two-dimensional images, even though there is a lot of that's very popular now, but small little videos, GIFs, all these things which are kind of getting very popular and worth a lot. I mean, the NFT market now is worth tens of billions of dollars. So we think about just the standard art world. And again, you know, we're picking on the fact we have an art gallery client, right? But they're dealing in physical art. This is that next iteration. Now, what does this mean for businesses? Because after all, that's why we're here, right? We're a marketing podcast. And so just in reference to NFTs, creating some sort of digital asset that you can monetize isn't really that difficult to get into. Now, yes, there are some barriers of entry. The main one being knowledge. How does cryptocurrency work? What are the cryptocurrencies? And it can seem overwhelming, especially if you haven't paid any attention to it. Maybe you've seen headlines or whatever, but have never really looked into it yourself. You haven't invested in crypto coins or, you know, really looked and perused at NFTs. And I'm going to post something in the show notes that'll kind of get you started if this is something you're interested in. But for businesses, regardless of what that space is, I think it's important to start kind of conceptualizing. We go back to the first question, right? Which was, what do you do when you have no inventory? Well, let's rephrase that question. What do you do when you don't have physical inventory? Can you create digital inventory? Right? And it's really, how can your business or industry or brand create something digital that you can start playing with in this space? And like I said, it's not about products and services, it's about revenue streams. So how can you utilize this emerging world to create a new revenue stream, right? So looking at, of course, just to create NFTs, and NFTs, again, really, for the most part, relate to digital art. Images, GIFs, videos, moving animations is really kind of where NFTs are living. And this leads to what I hinted at a little bit, which is called dApps. And they're digital apps. Decentralized apps, right? So again, I said, if you start looking into this world of cryptocurrencies, NFTs, you're going to hear this word a lot, decentralized. Okay. And this is probably a conversation for a whole other podcast, dApps, but they're very similar to NFTs in that we're creating something that is inherently designed to be authentic. This is a file of some sort that any user that can see the blockchain will know this is legitimate, right? Utilizing platforms like Ethereum, and Ethereum's not the only one out there, but it is the most prominent in this realm. And in one of the source notes or sources that are going to be in the notes, they talk about hint toward dApps, decentralized apps that are starting to creep into industries, financial industries. We think about any kind of industry that can be facilitated in a digital platform using digital currency, right? So, we have clients that do a lot of remote work, right? We have clients that they don't need a physical location to conduct business, and they don't need to see their customers face to face to make a transaction. Okay. We go back to the talk about the metaverse, and last time we spent quite a bit coming up with these hypotheticals about what does the metaverse look like? What kind of things can be done here? Well, already NFTs and dApps are being used to purchase land, quote unquote, in these metaverse spaces. In the gaming community, right? I think it was, I don't remember which publisher, Ubisoft, a big publisher of video game series, utilizing NFT technology to sell real estate in gaming spaces.
Yep.
And again, all existing in this blockchain upon this blockchain technology, right? So now we start to envision, what does this look like for the different types of industries out there across the economic field? Doesn't matter if you are in healthcare, if you are in tax and accounting, if you're in art, if you're in furniture, small scale boutique, whatever it is, there is some way you can tap in to what's happening right now in the metaverse, tap into what's happening with cryptocurrencies, digital transactions, and NFTs. If you're the type of business that has something you create, you now have a means to say, this is actually mine. And I said the barrier of entry really isn't that difficult. The difficulty is really just in understanding the technologies and processes. But in a nutshell, all it really takes is setting up an account on one of these, crypto banks, so to speak, buying some crypto coins. That's it. And you can kind of get started playing in this space. And so it's important, not just as consumers, that we start to play in it and get an understanding of how this works, because truth be told, this is the future, right? Decentralized currencies.
It's the current. It already is.
It is, but think about, it wasn't that long ago it was existing, but it was existing beneath the mainstream surface.
Sure.
Right. NFTs existed since 2014. The concept had existed since 2011, 2012, but it's only in the last year that it's infiltrated the public consciousness at a mainstream level.
I'm gonna say something kind of controversial.
Hit it.
All right. So NFT, I would say that the blockchain in and of itself, it's an amazing set of technologies, right? And there's going to be more like Bitcoin and Ethereum, and there's going to be more and more blockchain technologies that are going to evolve over the next few years, obviously. But I would say that the currency part of it, Bitcoin and others, kind of got ahead of, well, they got way ahead of like governments, regulation, things like that before anybody could bat an eye. But and the NFTs, you know, because it's a token, it's traceable, you own it, kind of thing. That is great, and I think has a lot of value. It'd be great for titles on properties, things, you know,
Absolutely.
you can offload and make a lot more efficient than our government does now. That's all really, really awesome. But why I say that the currency piece of it got ahead of probably where it should be right now. I mean, there's so much, and from a dollar value standpoint, there's so much tied up in cryptocurrency, and basically the idea initially was not for it to be an asset, but for it to be an exchange, which means that it's its own value. It does, I mean, yes, it goes up and down, but I don't think anybody, nobody knows where the creator of Bitcoin is right now, or if he's still alive, but nobody thought that Bitcoin, a single Bitcoin that was worth, you know, a few cents, could be worth something like $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, and that's the range it's been trading in, between, you know, $48,000 and $70,000 per Bitcoin. When just even a few years ago, it was in the hundreds of dollars, and before that, pennies. But have you ever heard of the Dunbar armed robbery? The Dunbar
Negative.
armed robbery. Okay, so that's the largest cash robbery that ever took place in the United States, and it was in California, where, you know, 6 men or so, they robbed an armored car or an armored facility in downtown Los Angeles, and so 6 guys steal $18.9 million. It took 6 of them armed to steal $18.9 million in cash, right? And that's the biggest robbery from a cash standpoint in the United States ever. Well, just this week, Bitmart, which is a cryptocurrency exchange, had $150 million worth of crypto stolen by hackers.
Oh, I saw that. Yeah.
And that's not even the biggest one. So there was one a few months ago, and they're not catching these people. So 150.
Well, and they're shutting down the platform too, so that you can't buy or sell currency.
Buy or sell it. And so what happens is then the value of the currency plummets. It affected Bitcoin, even though Bitcoin wasn't part of it. Bitcoin was like around 68,000. It fell to 48. Now it's around 50. And, you know, you can only guess that that's only part of the reason it fell. Nobody knows exactly why or how the value falls every time, but it affects it. And so it's just not ready for prime time for fortunes and real, I guess, real monetary value, in my view, because we've had more crypto stolen in the last 10 years than the history of robbing banks. We haven't got it right. And I mean, yeah, it's supposed to be secure, but what's covering these losses are VC funds, venture capital funds that are trying to cash in the billions of dollars with these various exchanges. So it's awesome. The NFT part of it is really cool, because I think that's harder to like steal an NFT, a specific NFT, because what has to happen is when these thefts occur, they have to pull the crypto. They have to then wash it by, you know, they have to basically mix it into other crypto, because the blockchain is public and the ledgers are there, but you can't really identify the people who own the wallets very well. it's just a whole new complex financial world to try to regulate and enforce. And the libertarian in me says, great, keep the governments out of it, but who do they call when these things happen? They're calling the FBI, they're calling regulators. It's like, oh my God, the whole thing has been compromised.
Yeah, I think it's relative in a sense, right? If we look at exact dollar amount to dollar amount in terms of highway robberies, I mean, you look back at the frontier days of the Wild West and stagecoaches getting robbed at gunpoint on their way out west, and you had things like Wells Fargo, having to hire security services like the Pinkertons.
Yes. Yep.
And this is just going to be that next iteration. I don't think anything's going to be perfect. You're always going to have the pirates.
Yeah, you have bad actors, but the difference is, I mean, so look at that. Okay, you have to go back and do the math, but I would say that unless you can prove otherwise, and it should be provable, there was a $600 million theft a while back. They never caught him, right? And then this is in crypto. You've got this 150 million. So there's been billions of dollars in real money stolen just in the last few years. I would guess it's more than all of the bank robberies put together in the last 200 years, which is pretty amazing. Now the value of the crypto keeps going up, right? So it makes up for that. You kind of don't see it as a huge issue if all crypto's worth hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars, but it's pretty amazing. I mean, that we've had this level of theft.
However, I think one thing needs to be kind of stressed with this. It's not the technologies themselves, like the blockchain technology upon which crypto rests and lives. It's not that it's the technologies itself that are getting hijacked and pirated and stolen, right? And so, again, I think it is still speaking to these are things of value. Nobody would steal, and I'm by no means condoning this, right? But no one's going to go out and steal a stagecoach full of dollar bills representing banknotes of gold and silver if those banknotes weren't worth something, right? And so I think it still is speaking to that we are dealing with things of some sort of value that can be translated into tangible value. Because even though it's Bitcoin, it's a digital coin, you don't see it so much. This does translate to real world wealth, right? And so, again, just kind of looking to the horizon of what this means for businesses, and not really even so much businesses, but just the economic playing field as a whole, right? And again, NFTs, I think it's really important to stress here. I hinted to the idea of a decentralized app, a DApp, right? And the NFTs are just one of them. So the NFTs don't exist apart from dApps. They are one of the dApps. And there are plenty more that exist. And again, those are going to, hints to this will be in the show notes. But what's important, an important takeaway for not just us as marketers and, digital tech strategists, but really important for business, however big or small. Because if you're a large business, this is something you need to start dipping your toes into, or at the very least playing with. If you're a small business, a locally owned furniture store, car dealer, whatever, these are going to be your competitors very soon, right? Small time grocery store, HEB and Amazon are coming for you. So you better start paying attention, right? Kind of idea. And so,
Note
Yeah,
for
I
those
think
that
it's-
don't live in Texas, HEB is the best grocery store that's ever existed.
Yeah.
Changed my mind.
True.
Yeah, I agree with you. So that's that. In the coming podcast episode, I would like to take the conversation of metaverse, NFTs, just digital transactions as a whole. And I've hinted to this to Shannon and Jason about Mars colonization.
Oh my.
To
Okay.
have a conversation there, because I think there are implications that we will see in our lifetime very soon in regards to that, not just in terms of we're watching it on the news, but things that are actually going to start impacting our day-to-day life from an economic buying and selling perspective. And so, I mean, that's all I had when it comes to NFTs and the implications thereof. Really quick, I do want to give a shout out to a buddy of mine, an old boy from San Antonio, Jay Leone. He helped me a lot in kind of researching this topic, because again, this wasn't necessarily my realm of expertise here. But Jay Leone, you helped out a lot going back to the LOT League of Thoroughbred days. And I know you've had a lot to say about UTSA in the last couple of weeks, but they're Conference USA champions, buddy. So thanks a lot.
All right. Well, I think that's a longer episode, but that was very interesting. In the next few weeks, we're going to have some really interesting interviews mixed in with the podcast.
Awesome.
I'll keep that. Won't throw any names out there yet, but we're going to have some interviews from around the industry and various industries. If you like the show, please rate it. Give us a 5-star rating. That would be awesome. If you have any questions at all, if there's a topic you'd like us to discuss or anything else, please send an email to info@thrivefuel.com.
Or if you want to suggest a cocktail or a drink, send those as well.
That would be great. We always like to try new things, especially cocktails. So yeah, we appreciate you guys listening, and we will do this again in a week. Talk to you later.